Welcome back to Go Long Live with Barry Long 2. I am your host, Barry Long the second, and we are live on CoachellaValley.com. We are live on today's California.com. Thank you to everybody who has been following the show. Thank you to everybody who's viewing it, who is liking the page, who is also subscribing and sharing the post. So we have some headlines that we were going to get into. We're just going to hop right in and start talking some sports. Some headlines that happened around the sports world. First of all, last night was the All-Star game, the Major League Baseball All-Star game. And we saw the American League defeat the National League 5-2. Now, we saw a lot of the big players, a lot of the big-time stars that are coming out in the major leagues right now. Fernando Tatis Jr. is probably the biggest star. Of course, we wanted to see Acuna Jr. From the Atlanta Braves. He just tore his ACL, so he was not there. We saw Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who has been one of the most popular players in the sport right now. He's playing for the Toronto Blue Jays. He hit a freaking bomb that was 468 feet. And of course, he won the MVP for the All-Star game, becoming the youngest at 22 years old to win the MVP. Now, I thought it was a very nice gesture that he made last night, because now when he was a young boy, he was at the All-Star game with his dad, Vladimir Guerrero Sr., who was a beast. He was a monster. He used to hit some of the best home runs that you'll ever see. And he had a glove that actually had the picture that he took with his dad when they first went to the All-Star game when he was a kid. So he had that imprinted onto his glove, and it was, I don't know who makes gloves like that, but they're rich, and I'm sure that they could easily get that done. But it was a nice little gesture, and he promised everyone that he was going to go out there and hit a home run and become the MVP, and he backed up his promise 100%. We saw the home run derby, which has not been as popular as it once was, maybe back when Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire were playing the sport. We saw the home run derby. Pete Alonso came and won it back-to-back years. Pete Alonso defeated some of the likes of guys like Trey Mancini from the Baltimore Orioles, who battled back from stage 3 colon cancer. That's a really good story. And Trevor Story. Speaking of Story, Trevor Story, who was the hometown favorite for the Colorado Rockies, he lost as well. But Pete Alonso, congratulations to him for winning that, and congratulations to the All-Star team from the American League. They have won now 8 straight, and there is your MVP, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who doesn't play exactly like his dad. His dad was a straight beast. His dad was skinnier, much skinnier. He played in the outfield. And his dad was more of a free swinger. I mean, he could basically hit a ball that was at his shoestrings and hit it 468 feet. This guy's more of a traditional hitter. His son, Junior, is a little bit heavier. He plays first base, but he definitely has that same flair and that same swag that his dad played the game with. So Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Was your MVP from the All-Star game. And one of the biggest stories in baseball right now is Shohei Ohtani. I know there's a controversial thing going on with some of the networks, but Shohei Ohtani is the league leader in the major leagues in home runs. He has 33 home runs, and he's one of the best pitchers that we have in the game. And we have not seen a player like this since Babe Ruth. Okay, Shohei Ohtani pitches and hits, and you never see that in today's baseball game. Most of the time when guys are, when they're scouted coming up in high school, middle school, or AAU, the first thing that they do well is one of the things that they push them into. So if you're a good pitcher and you got a gun, then they're going to try to put you into that pitcher box, and then you're going to not hit. You're not going to take batting practice as much. You're not going to care about hitting as much. You're going to be more concerned on developing your breaking balls and developing your fastball, your two-seamer, your four-seamer. And you don't want to take away, this has been the theory, they don't want to take away what you do best by making you do something else. So there's a specialty game that's been happening in baseball for centuries. And it seems like this guy is breaking the mold, because there are pitchers. We have seen pitchers in the league that can hit the ball when they come up to bat, and they can swing the bat pretty well. But we've never seen a pitcher that leads the leagues in home runs since Babe Ruth. 33 home runs this guy has, and he's also one of the best pitchers in the game for the Angels. Now, the Angels are one game above 500, so I don't expect them to make the playoffs this year unless they make a good push when they get Mike Trout back. But yeah, it's just a wonderful thing to see somebody who comes into the game and really changes the game, and not just because he's an international star, he's a Japanese star like Ichiro changed the game. This guy literally is one of the best hitters and one of the best pitchers in the game. So shout out to Shohei Ohtani for the throwback swag that he has. Now, a lot of people were talking smack on social media about these uniforms. I'm not a real big fan of the uniforms. They put down now you see on the American League, they're in navy blue. They put down basically the three-letter abbreviation for each team, like New York Yankees, NYY, Colorado as COL, the Dodgers, my Los Angeles Dodgers, will be LAD. And then they kind of hologrammed the actual logos over top, put the American flag on the left sleeve with the Nike on the right chest. But it just got a lot of feedback from social media yesterday. A lot of people were saying that they didn't like it. I thought it looked pretty sharp. It looked kind of like it was a Team USA kind of thing. And because this is an Olympics year, I kind of did like the jerseys, but a lot of people didn't like them. There's a shot of the Angels one. It says LAA, and then it has the Angels Halo logo right there. But yeah, it was a lot of feedback from people talking smack. And I thought that one of the cool things that Major League Baseball has done in the past is they have guys mic'd up. Now, all sports have players mic'd up, but Major League Baseball has players mic'd up during the games, and they actually interact with the commentators during the games. We've seen it in the past where like A-Rod was at shortstop. That was the first time I ever saw it. A-Rod was at shortstop, and he's mic'd up, and he's talking to the commentators, and they're asking him questions. And of course, baseball is not a contact sport, so it's easier to do that. Well, yesterday was the first time I've seen them at bat talking to a player. They had the likes of Salvador Perez. They had other players. Xander Bogaerts was mic'd up, and literally Joe Buck is in this guy's ear as he's standing at bat, and he's like, "What pitch do you think is coming?" It's not like when they're in the field and they're just standing there and there's no action going on unless the ball's hit in their direction, and they're kind of just standing there and just loitering basically in the field. No, this is a guy who is in an active at bat with a 1-2 count, and they're asking him seconds before the pitch is thrown, what kind of pitch is it going to be? And of course, he gets a fastball. He got a changeup and then struck out. And then, but it made for really good TV, and it's something that we might see moving forward in other sports. So, shout out to Major League Baseball for being so influential in introducing this technology into today's game. Now, I really wanted to talk about Team USA. I tried to warn everybody that Team USA was not looking good this year. I tried to warn everybody that Team USA might not win the gold this year. Team USA has lost 2 games out of their last 3. They lost to Nigeria. We talked about that last week's show. They lost to Australia, 91-83. Now they played last night. They bounced back against Argentina and they won 108-80. And it kind of felt like that was what Team USA should have been doing all along. However, when you go back and you look at the losses to Nigeria and you look at the loss to Australia, now Nigeria has 7 NBA players, much of whom are not household names, people you've never even heard of. Australia has a few household names like Matthew Dellavedova, who's trash. Patty Mills, who's a serviceable point guard, who's been in the league for a while, plays with the Spurs. They also have, they could have had Ben Simmons, but they decided not to have Ben Simmons because he is taken out for what is called individual development. Basically, he's working on his jump shot. And they also have guys like Matisse Thybulle from the Philadelphia 76ers. But Australia has a decent team. France, I think, has probably the biggest threat. Excuse me. France is the biggest threat to the U.S., in my opinion, because they have guys like Rudy Gobert, who was a 7-footer. Now, the way that this team has been constructed is the problem, in my opinion, of why we are struggling. Now, I went over it before and told you guys. They have Bam Adebayo, they have Kevin Love, and Draymond Green as the big men. Those are the biggest guys that we have on the team. Bam Adebayo is what, 6'9", 6'10"? Draymond Green, 6'6". Kevin Love is 6'8". We have no 7-footers whatsoever. So we were out rebound by Nigeria, and we were out rebound by Australia. And it was a significant difference in the rebounds. My opinion is the problem is that we're trying to chase this international game, and the team is constructed wrong. It's not constructed like an NBA team. It's constructed with all scorers, all shooters, no distributors, and no rebounders. When we have to rely on Kevin Love as one of our best big men, Houston, we have a problem. America, we have a problem. I love what Draymond Green brings to the table because he is a facilitator as a big man. He's a great defender. He's got that moxie, that toughness. He's a great trash talker. Not sure how much trash you can talk in different languages if you don't speak their native language, but I'm sure he can look something up or ask Siri. But yeah, this is a problem. Bam Adebayo, that's a problem. So then I started thinking, I said, man, why didn't we have any big men to be on Team USA? And then I looked down in my head, I went down the rosters and tried to think about all the big men that are in the NBA right now. All the best dominant 7-footers. You got guys like Nikola Jokic. He's a foreign guy. You got Joel Embiid, foreign. Clint Capella, foreign. Valanciunas, foreign. Vucevic from Orlando, foreign. Porzingis, foreign. Nurkic, foreign. Even a guy like DeAndre Ayton, who's playing right now in the NBA Finals, you're thinking, hey, man, maybe he could join the team. No, he's foreign. He is from the Bahamas. I'm sure him and Buddy Hield would probably start a Bahamian team, and maybe they could do something special. The problem is we don't have any dominant 7-footer big men that are American anymore. Now, if I was constructing Team USA, I would probably say, hey, we need to go out and get somebody like, dare I say, Dwight Howard, Hassan Whiteside, maybe DeAndre Jordan. That's the slim pickings that are left for big men in the NBA that are American. Now, is that speaking to the positive things like, hey, the game has developed? The game that James Naismith created in America has not only become international, but has developed internationally. And if you go back and watch some of those games, the way that Australia and the way that Nigeria was moving the basketball against America was a beautiful display of how the game should be played. They're moving the ball. They're setting screens. They're taking charges. They're knocking down threes. I mean, the game has developed all across the world. But yeah, we do not have any dominant 7-footers. And when you look at this roster that we've constructed, all of the wing players are just scorers and not facilitators. Devin Booker, Jeremy Grant, Drew Holiday, Zach LaVine. Damian Lillard is a point guard who is not a distributor first. Because when Damian Lillard goes like this and it's Dame time, he doesn't mean, hey, I'm about to go and find the best pass and I'm about to set somebody up like Lonzo Ball would. No, he means that he's about to take over the game. He's about to call ISO. And he's about to hit the game winner and take over as a scorer. We do not have any facilitators on this team besides Draymond Green. You can't play Draymond Green as a point guard. Then I started thinking, man, these are just exhibition games right now, okay? So let's pump the brakes. Maybe they're taking it a little bit slowly. Where are the exhibition games being played at? Las Vegas. Now, this is another one of my theories. And by the way, you are watching Go Long Live with Barry Long 2 on CoachellaValley.com, as well as today'scalifornia.com. We are talking Team USA basketball right now. So this is one of my theories. They're playing these exhibition games in Las Vegas. And everybody knows that when you go to Las Vegas, what do they say? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Now, let me ask you a question, and you can just answer to yourself in the car if you're watching on Facebook, whatever you're watching, however you're listening. But okay, let's say you have a workers convention for your job in Las Vegas. The first thing you're going to think about after you think about, hey, how much free time am I going to have in Vegas? The first thing you're thinking about is what shows are we going to watch? What restaurants are we going to go to? What casinos are we going to go gamble at? What clubs are we going to go to? And professional athletes are no different than you and I. So if you're going there for your job's national convention in Vegas and you're planning on doing stuff, you might stay up all night gambling and then go to the event that you're supposed to go to for your job. What makes a professional athlete any more different than you? And my theory was that the first professional sports team that they had in Las Vegas was the Las Vegas Golden Knights. And my theory was that because their first year, we never see in any of the four major sports, we never see expansion teams go straight to the finals the first year they're there. They're expansion teams. They had an expansion draft, meaning they had the bottom of the barrel to pick from. And they're not expected to even be a contender for the playoffs in their first year. The Vegas Golden Knights made it to the Stanley Cup finals. Now, although they lost, my theory was they played so well at home that, okay, the Los Angeles Kings. Let's take the Kings. Let's say the Kings are going there for an away game to Vegas. And the Kings, I picked them as an example because that is my team. Shout out to the Los Angeles Kings. We've been bad for a few years, but we'll be back. But the Kings will go to Vegas and they want to go see, and they want to go play this away game in Vegas. The first thing that Jonathan Quick and Kopitar and those guys are talking about is, hey, let's go out and see a show. Let's go to the nightclub. Let's go to the casino, dude. Let's go gamble all night. And then they show up. This is my theory. They show up the next day and they play terribly. They do not play well. And that gives the team that's in Vegas the advantage, an even bigger home court advantage or home field advantage or home ice advantage, because the away team is thinking about what they're going to do that night or what they did the night before. So I say all that to say this. Now, Vegas is where these exhibition games are being held. So maybe Kevin Durant and these players that are on this roster, Bam Adebayo and Devin Booker's not there yet, but he will be there. Draymond Green, Zach LaVine, Damian Lillard. Maybe they are not as focused as they will be when they get to Tokyo. Maybe they're worried about going to see Chris Angel tonight or Carrot Top. Either way, they need to figure it out because 1 and 2 in exhibition games is unacceptable, even though they're only exhibition games. And just imagine, okay, we were talking about in the first few episodes, we talked about how the NBA has been under fire lately because of the shortened season that they had in the bubble, the quick turnaround that they had with this season, and how many days they played within a week. They were playing back-to-back games all season long. So we saw more star players injured than we've ever seen going into any playoffs before. Injuries are a part of the game, but this year it felt like it was the game. A lot of people were criticizing Adam Silver for his decision to move forward with the way that this season was structured this year. And as a result, even LeBron James came out and was critical of the NBA. I was just thinking, now imagine if we hadn't had a shortened season, because this is an Olympic year, right? And we want to win the gold. Imagine if we hadn't had a short season. Imagine if these injuries did not occur, what this team would look like. Okay. Imagine if you add to that roster, you take away a few names. And I'll be real with you. I would take away Jeremy Grant. I like Zach LaVine. He's a great player. I would take away him. And I would probably definitely take away Draymond Green. But imagine if you had these players to add to that list. If James Harden didn't get injured this season, he had a hamstring injury. He was out. Kyrie Irving, added him to that list. Add Kawhi Leonard, and we'll talk about him here in a little bit. Add Anthony Davis. All of those guys possibly healthy. They're all injured. They all got injured this season. And whether it was due to the shortened season or the quick turnaround, or whether it was due to just happenstance. Imagine if we had those guys on that team. We would be 3-0 right now in these exhibition games. And LeBron James should still He should be on the team right now, but he's got to pass because Space Jam is dropping this Friday, and I'm sure he has to promote it. And he didn't have time. Steph Curry has a lot of stuff going on too. He's not injured. He would add some differences to this team, but I'm telling you right now, with the way France looks, the way Argentina's looking, or I'm sorry, the way Australia's looking, and the way that Nigeria is looking, we'll be lucky if we walk out of there with a bronze medal. This is Go Long Live with Barry Long 2. I am Barry Long II, and we are live on CoachellaValley.com. We are also live on Today'sCalifornia.com. Now, I told you we would talk about Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard has partially torn ACL surgery that was successful yesterday. And we were kind of questioning it because he went out early in the series against the Utah Jazz. We weren't sure whether it was a partially torn ACL, whether it was a fully torn ACL. I'm sure if it was, he would have undergone surgery immediately. So we kind of could throw that out. We weren't sure if it was just an ACL sprain or an MCL sprain. Now we know that it was a partially torn ACL, and he's had surgery, which will probably most likely put him out until December, maybe January. And if the injury was even more serious than that, we could be looking at 10 months. We could be looking at April, May, him showing up. So he might be back for the playoffs. So for all the Clippers fans out there, I feel bad for you. Shout out to the Lakers fans. This is a Laker town anyway. But yeah, Kawhi Leonard being out for a significant amount of time is a big blow to Ty Lue and that franchise right now. They've got some question marks as far as whether they can keep Reggie Jackson. Of course, they'll get Paul George back, but they're going to need to fill out the rest of that roster. And without Kawhi Leonard to take on some of that load that he would have probably load managed anyway, without him to carry some of that load for Paul George, it's going to be difficult for this team to even make the playoffs next season. It remains to be seen how they are able to restructure that roster and give them a fighting chance to perform. So we move on to one of my favorite stories that I have seen this offseason. And I'm an avid video game player. I love Madden. I love to play MLB The Show on PlayStation. I love to play NBA 2K. Well, we found out that Candace Parker will be the first female on the NBA 2K cover ever. So we know that a few years ago, 2-3 years ago, the NBA 2K franchise decided that they were going to add in the WNBA players. So you have a mode where you can go in and play as the WNBA. And it is a fantastic thing for women in general. Just so amazing that, you can go on there and play with Skylar Diggins and Brittany Griner and Sue Bird. And now Candace Parker has become the very first woman to be on the cover of NBA 2K. And she'll be on the cover of NBA 2K22. And I'm sure that they might have even more features added to this year's NBA 2K. And I just think that is a beautiful thing for women in general. The other night, I was watching the Do Tour, which is skateboarding. And I was blown away by how far the women's skating competition has come. I mean, you've got female skaters that are out there doing their thing. I mean, they look like they're just as good as the men. And it's just a wonderful thing for us to see things like this. Candace Parker becoming the first female on an NBA 2K cover. And she does a wonderful job for TNT when she does her analysis for the NBA. So just shout out to Candace Parker. I am a big Candace Parker fan because my parents went to the University of Tennessee, and I am a Tennessee Vols, Lady Vols fan. I met Pat Summitt when I was a kid. I'm an avid fan. So shout out to Kelly Jolly and all those girls and the rest of that team. Now we have to move on to some very, very serious news that we have just heard. It's breaking news. Richard Sherman has been arrested on domestic violence charges. Richard Sherman, of course, has been the loudmouth, one side of the field cornerback. Been very dominant in his time in the NFL, especially with the Seahawks. He's been most recently played with the San Francisco 49ers. He is now a free agent. We were waiting for Richard Sherman news to drop today, as a matter of fact. We were waiting to see what team he was going to sign with, And when I saw breaking news, Richard Sherman, I thought, oh man, the Eagles have picked him up. Maybe the Ravens have picked him up. No, the police picked him up. So Richard Sherman, this is not a laughing matter. I apologize, but that was pretty good. You got to admit. But yeah, so we do not condone domestic violence on CoachellaValley.com or Today's California or Go Long Live. Throwing that disclaimer out there. But yeah, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, Richard Sherman was booked today at 6:08 a.m. local time on the Pacific Coast in Seattle for a burglary domestic violence charge. He was denied bail, and when they pulled up his arrest report, it says INV, which means that this offense is actually being investigated as a felony domestic violence charge. They say that somebody who was taken into custody said that there was a 911 call from the residence. It was received at 2 a.m. Pacific time. The person calling said that an adult male family member who did not live at the residence was attempting to force his way into the home. Police arrived. They saw the suspect outside the home. He fought with police and eventually was apprehended. Now, Richard Sherman has been denied bail right now, as we will continue to follow this story. Sounds like some very touchy stuff going on with probably in his personal life, and we don't want to jump to any conclusions yet. We don't know whether or not he was the one that was fighting with police or not, but definitely not good for someone who is out there looking for a contract right now, who is a free agent, who is 31, who has certainly lost a step or two when it comes to how well they perform on the field. But we've seen players before in the NFL get brought up on serious domestic violence charges, and we've seen them in other NFL uniforms. So it doesn't mean that he won't play again. Just means that he probably most likely will serve some type of suspension once this legal matter is all figured out. But yes, Richard Sherman has been arrested on domestic violence charges, and reports are that it could potentially be felonious. So we move on from one guy who has legal matters to another guy who has legal matters. Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson has, of course, we know if you've been following his case, he has 22 women or more who have accused him of sexual misconduct during massages. And none of them are criminal charges. These are all civil matters, which raises eyebrows for certain people. For certain people, it doesn't even matter. However, we know that he's had his legal issues, and he's probably facing a suspension. But we found out that today that the Eagles, according to Adam Schefter as well, are interested in Deshaun Watson potentially being their quarterback moving forward. Now, they got a new regime over there. They got rid of Carson Wentz, and we thought that potentially Jalen Hurts was going to be their guy. We thought Jalen Hurts would be the guy moving forward, but he was 1-3 last year, filling in for Carson Wentz. Hasn't really shown much that can convince me that he is the answer for the next 10 years for this team. He certainly plays a very physical running type of game, style of play like Cam Newton, as far as his ability to run the football, which may not lend itself to longevity. Deshaun Watson is more of a pocket passer. So it probably would be an upgrade. Will definitely be an upgrade. Deshaun Watson being one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, but it remains to be seen whether or not they'll even be able to trade for Deshaun Watson because of his legal issues and pending potential suspensions. But yes, the Eagles are considering trading for Deshaun Watson, and they were considering picking up Richard Sherman. We'll see how both of those play out. Now, tonight, we've got the Bucks Suns game 4. It is tonight at 6 p.m. Pacific time on ABC. I will be watching at 6 p.m. because I'm in the Pacific. And shout out to everybody who's on the East Coast in Virginia that's tuning in. Appreciate all of you. We got the Bucks Suns game tonight, game 4. And it is going to be a tough game. It's going to be interesting to see whether or not Chris Middleton can step up, whether or not Drew Holiday can step up. They both played, well at home. And they played well at home. Giannis Antetokounmpo is coming off back-to-back 40-point double-doubles, one of the only 3 players in the NBA history to ever do that. Let's see if he can have back-to-back 40-point triple-doubles. I'm pretty sure that he can. And I'm excited to see how the Phoenix Suns are going to respond to losing this past game 3, because they have typically responded in well fashion when they come back from a loss in this playoffs, and they come back in a dominant fashion, I should say. And it will be an interesting game to see. But tonight's 2 big players, we're gonna have to see whether or not Devin Booker can bounce back from that 10-point performance, and whether or not Giannis Antetokounmpo can follow up his big performance. Now, we have a segment that I told you guys that we were gonna do every show. It's called Meme of the Day. I didn't forget Meme of the Day. We're going to end the show with the Meme of the Day. But yesterday was the All-Star game. And memes don't always have to be funny. Sometimes they can be heartfelt and make you go, oh. This meme is like that, okay? So Freddie Freeman, the first baseman for the Atlanta Braves, was not playing well this season. Of course, he was the MVP last year, but he was not playing well this season. And he goes on MLB Intentional Talk, which is on Major League Baseball Network. And he said that 2 months ago, he was hitting 220 as his batting average. And his son, Charlie, goes, Daddy, I'm going to need you to start playing better so I can go to the All-Star game and meet Fernando. He's talking about Fernando Tatis. And then he said, that's the only reason why you want me to play better, son? And the son goes, yes. So Freddie Freeman started playing better. And lo and behold, he was invited to this year's All-Star game. And there is his son, Charlie, with Fernando Tatis Jr., and he got his wish to come true. Such a great story. And this is one of the reasons why we love sports, for stuff like that. Now, we are live on CoachellaValley.com and today's California.com. Thank you to Craig Campbell. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in, everyone who has been following with the show. We are still looking for sponsors. So if you'd like to sponsor the show, just give me a holler. Give me a holler on my social media. I'm at Radio Barry Long at Twitter. On Facebook, I'm at Barry Long II. And on Instagram, I'm at Barry Long _2. This is Go Long Live with Barry Long 2. Catch you next time.